G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you've had an awesome day. I hope you smiled today because smiles are freaking awesome. And yes, I am smiling because I'm covering Jennifer Howell's full statement that was actually used in the UK appeal that Johnny Depp had. But before we do that, I wanted to just mention a couple of quick things. So the channel Vault of Truth is doing very well. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you haven't, think about subscribing. Also, the join button has now appeared for memberships, and I try to do a member stream once a week if I can. So if you want to join up as a member of the channel, check out that join button down below. And of course, I have to mention Air of Justice, that other favorite channel of mine. So if you haven't subscribed or checked out Air of Justice, go over and see Les's channel and hit the old subscribe button over there as well. But what I wanted to do today is I wanted to get into more of the unsealed documents. Once again, thank you to Andrea Burkhart for getting those documents for us. But in those unsealed documents, at what page is it? 726 of one of those very large unsealed documents is Jennifer Howell's full witness statement for the UK appeal. Now, the reason I'm going through this is because I hadn't actually seen it before. I've read her declaration and I've read her correspondence before with Adam Waldman and such, but I haven't actually read through her full witness statement before. So that's what we're going to do today. And let's just remember, Jennifer Howell is somebody who did do a deposition for the US trial in Virginia. However, it was heavily edited due to objections and all those things that were taken out. So this is what she actually said or wanted to say in Virginia, but didn't get the opportunity to due to all of those objections. But for you, you're going to get to hear it right now in full, and let's get into it. Okay, as I said there, in the Court of Appeal, Civil Division, on appeal from the High Court of Justice, Queen's Bench Division, Media and Communications List, John Christopher Depp II, and News Group Newspapers, NGN, Dan Wooten. Witness statement of Jennifer Howell. Okay, here we go. I, Jennifer Howell, will say as follows. I am the founder of a non-profit organization that I have run for 23 years called the Art of Elysium, the AOE. We take in artists and help them to be of service to communities in need. We serve over 30,000 individuals in need each year. And I'll just quickly stop there and say, well done, Jennifer Howell. Well done, not only for having such integrity to come forward and support the truth in both the UK and now the US proceedings as well, but that has since ticked over 25 years because this was done in 2021. The 25-year anniversary has just been celebrated by Jennifer Howell and the Art of Elysium. So well done on all of that charity work. So here we go. Unless stated otherwise, the facts and matters referred to in this witness statement are within my own knowledge and are true, or they are true to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief based on sources stated within this witness statement. I make this witness statement in response to the evidence given under cross-examination by Whitney Enriquez during the trial of these proceedings on 23rd of July, 2020. I understand that the appellant will seek to rely upon it in his appeal. There is now produced and shown to me a paginated bundle of documents marked JH1, to which I refer to below. My relationship with Whitney Enriquez and Amber Heard. Every year, the AOE holds the Heaven Gala in Los Angeles. It is usually a big event in January held on the night before the Golden Globes. I believe that Amber first came to the gala in 2008 or 2009, which I believe is when I first met her. Johnny Depp also attended the gala a few times, and I had met him at those. I met Whitney Enriquez through Amber Heard. I believe I met her at an event she had attended with Amber. The first time she and I had any one-on-one interaction is when she came to the Art of Elysium's art salons to discuss potentially using the space for a bridal shower for Amber. During this meeting, she told me how excited she was that Amber was marrying Johnny and how excited she was to put together a bridal shower for her sister. During this meeting, she told me about her previous work experience doing events, bar management, and the like. I told her the plans of expanding the art salons into an artist's program for the charity and that I would love to discuss bringing her on board to manage the salons once we had funding to do so. Whitney was excited by the opportunity and shortly thereafter began volunteering with the art salons before we were able to officially offer her a job. She began volunteering around the 28th of August 2014 and was formally employed by the Art of Elysium as art salon manager/director shortly before the 2015 Heaven Gala. In January 2015, at this Heaven Gala, AOE honored Amber with the Spirit of Elysium Award. She was nominated by one of the Art of Elysium staff who coordinated the volunteering and who nominated Amber as she was good with the children, particularly as she was bilingual, so she could speak to them both in Spanish and English and in sign language. I am still grateful for her support of our charity. Around this time, I was invited to an engagement party for Amber and Johnny. I knew nothing about Amber's personal life behind closed doors until later. As I got to know Whitney better, which happened naturally during the course of her employment at the AOE. I still consider Whitney to be my dear friend, and she has told me that I am her chosen sister. I also called her my chosen sister. She meant this in the context of wishing that she could choose me as her family instead of the sister she was given by blood. Ooh, yeah, I can understand why. March 2015 to January 2016. During the course of her employment, and as a result of working together closely in our offices, Whitney began to disclose information about Amber's behavior. For example, while Amber and Johnny were in Australia, and which I believe must have been early March 2015, Whitney was sitting near the kitchen in our office and suddenly proclaimed loudly, "Oh my God, she has done it now. She has cut off his fucking finger." I have since read Amber's testimony during the London trial, and I understand that Amber claims that Johnny accidentally cut part of his own finger off, which is contrary to what I was told by Whitney at the time. At that time, Whitney was living in a penthouse at the Eastern Columbia building, where her sister and Johnny lived. Later that year, she asked to come and stay with me. She ended up living with me in the guest room of my apartment on Wilshire Boulevard, in a queen-sized bed. She stayed with me for a number of months in 2015 and into 2016. I cannot recall exactly when Whitney moved in or when she moved out, as I did not keep records at the time and had no reason to think I needed to. It is also difficult for me to remember when and how long Whitney was staying in my apartment because she seemed to just fall out and make up with Amber a number of occasions. And so I do not think she stayed with me for only one uninterrupted time period, but there was one longer period of time, which I believe fell in the second half of 2015 and the early part of 2016. My job also requires me to travel a lot, and so I was not at my apartment for the entire period Whitney was staying with me. I no longer have a record of my text conversations with Whitney at the time, which was her main method of communication. As I've since changed my phone service provider, I found emails from between the 11th of January and the 6th of March 2016, which suggest that Whitney was still living with me at the time. A copy of those emails are enclosed at Exhibit JH1, pages 1 to 3. Although I also believe that she and Amber were reconciled in January 2016, as they both came to the Art of Elysium Heaven Gala. When she arrived, it was one evening, and Whitney was in a mess. She told me she had tried to stop Amber from hitting and attacking Johnny during an argument on the stairs. Whitney said she tried to stop Amber from hitting and attacking Johnny. Amber nearly pushed her, as in Whitney, down the stairs. She told me she was worried Amber was going to kill Johnny. She told me she had endured that kind of abuse her entire life, first from her father and then from Amber, who she said was extremely violent. Now, I just wanted to highlight those few lines there, and I'm going to go over them just again because I want to reiterate this. She is not talking about Johnny being violent. She is talking about Amber being violent towards Johnny. She's talking about Amber nearly killing Johnny. Or Whitney is talking about being afraid of Amber potentially ending Johnny's life. I'm going to read this one more time. When she arrived, it was one evening, and Whitney was in a mess. She told me she had tried to stop Amber from hitting and attacking Johnny during an argument down the stairs. Whitney said when she tried to stop Amber from hitting and attacking Johnny, Amber nearly pushed her, as in Whitney, down the stairs. She told me she was worried Amber was going to kill Johnny. She told me she had endured that kind of abuse her entire life, first from her father and then from Amber, who she said was extremely violent. Now, I will also point out here as well that, of course, if Whitney and Amber have been through, any kind of abuse as children, that's horrible, absolutely horrible. Nobody should have to go through that. But what I will also say is one more time that Whitney here is telling Jennifer Howell that she was afraid that Amber was going to push Johnny down the stairs, kill Johnny, and Whitney was the one who got pushed down the stairs by Amber, not by Johnny. Does that sound familiar to anybody? The staircase incident where she said, "Oh, my baby sister was," I was defending my baby sister. No, you weren't. You were attacking Johnny and you nearly pushed your own sister down the stairs as a result. Okay. As she told me this, she was inconsolable. I cannot remember if she had anything with her when she arrived at my apartment that evening, but I think she had to go back to the Eastern Columbia building at some stage to get some more clothes and her things. At the time, I believed that Whitney was telling me about an event which had just happened. However, I understand from reading about the trial in London, which I did after Whitney referred to me in her evidence, that an incident involving Whitney, Amber, and Johnny on the stairs in the penthouses at the Eastern occurred in late March 2015. I do not believe that it was that early in 2015 when Whitney came to stay, but I cannot say for sure. If it was later, I cannot say whether I misunderstood when thinking that the stairs incident had just happened or if Whitney gave the wrong impression. She lived with me because she told me that she did not feel she could go back to live at the Eastern Columbia building. She told me that she had fallen out with her sister badly and no longer wanted to be involved with her at the time. My father recently reminded me that I had told him at the time that Whitney had moved in with me because she was terrified of her sister. I'm going to say that one more time as well. Whitney had moved in with me because she was terrified of her sister. I remember one time Whitney had returned from New York, where I think she had been for a premiere for the Tribeca Film Festival. She shared with me and nearly everyone at the office that during the trip, Amber had freaked out, attacked her, as in attacked Whitney, and had thrown a wine glass full of red wine at her in an elevator. I believe it would have been April 2015, as that is when the Tribeca Film Festival takes place. I think this must have been before Whitney moved in with me for the longer period of time, as I doubt that Whitney would have gone with her sister if it was just after she had come to live with me. While Whitney was living with me, she told me that Johnny kept checking in to see how she was doing and that he called her sis and that she called him brother. I obviously did not see any of her messages. Whitney was always singing his praises and said that Johnny was more of a brother to her than Amber was a sister. Whitney said to me on multiple occasions that she did not know why he was staying in a relationship nor why he was putting up with Amber's abuse. Whitney shared with me the damage endured by both her and Amber's children from their parents. And I'll say this bit one more time. So Whitney kept singing Johnny's praises. Not what she said on the witness stand, was it? And she also said on multiple occasions that she doesn't know why Johnny is staying in the relationship and why he's putting up with Amber's abuse towards him. While living with me, Whitney started sharing with me the magnitude of everything which had happened to her and Amber, not only with me, but with the people in our office. Whitney told me so much about Amber at times I had to tell her I didn't want to know anymore. I knew that at some point Amber would be back in her life and that I would have to see and speak to Amber, and I didn't want to have to interact with her, knowing all of the awful things Whitney said she had done. In light of how much she told me and others about Amber and Johnny, I have no doubt that if Johnny had ever laid a hand on Amber, we would have been told about it. If she had told me that Johnny had hit Amber, I would have been down there with the cops and social workers to get out of here, get out of there. I'm embarrassed and deeply regret not doing the same kindness for Johnny. Well, and look, I don't want people that are listening to this now, watching this now, to take out of context what Jen Howe said then. She's admitted that she, wanted to do things differently. And if she had have known Whitney was going to lie about all this and it was going to go, down this track, she would have spoken up sooner. But, at least she's saying there that she recognizes that, yeah, she probably should have gotten the cops down there and gotten social workers down there on behalf of Johnny to help protect Johnny. Anyway, continues. Whitney's employment at the Art of Elysium came to an end shortly after Heaven in January 2016 as a part of wider layoffs at the time, because we no longer had the budget to employ her. At the time, a donor had made a pledge, which we had based our entire budget on, but the pledge was not paid. I wonder if that was Amber. I don't think it was. I don't think there's any evidence of that. But interesting how a pledge doesn't equal paid, does it? Amber, you taking note of that? Amber had gotten into legal trouble regarding smuggling her dogs into Australia. She asked me to write her a character reference about her charity work, and I did so. A copy of that reference is enclosed at Exhibit JH1, page 4. We had given her a humanitarian award a year earlier, and I still felt grateful for her support for the AOE, even if by then I had felt very protective of Whitney and was concerned about Amber's behavior. Whitney also asked me to write the letter on behalf of her sister. I deeply regret writing that letter at this point in time. Contact with Whitney and Amber in 2019. Later, when Amber and Johnny were divorcing that summer, $7 million of the proceeds from the divorce was supposed to go to charity. I learned that none of it would be directed to the Art of Elysium, which Amber had been closely associated with for years. Instead, I understood it would all go to the ACLU and the LA Children's Hospital. I was disappointed at this news and asked Amber's publicist why, when she and Amber had been so eager to use our name in the press during the divorce, and when the funds would mean so much to a small organization like ours. Would Amber direct all the money to these other two huge charities that she had not been associated with? Amber's only volunteering opportunities at CHLA were while she was volunteering as one of the AOE artists for our programs. Amber's publicist told me that they were more prominent charities with a more significant press reach and got more international press. Yeah, that sounds right, doesn't it? Chasing the clout. Now, Amber tried to say during the trial that she spent all this time doing charity and she loved the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Yet, two pieces of evidence. One, the CHLA letter that said, hey, we'd love you to donate the rest of that money, and at the same time, we could give you a tour of the facilities. Now, if somebody who had worked there multiple times, would you need to give them a tour of the facilities, or would they already know it? They would already know it, wouldn't they? But she never worked there. She never did any volunteering. And now the second piece of evidence is here with Jen Howell's statement saying that she never did any work at the CHLA. So once again, all backed up. On January 9th, 2018, a $250,000 check came into our organization from an anonymous donor with a note stating it was made on behalf of Amber Heard. The funds did not come from Amber, but from Fidelity Charitable. A copy of the check received is enclosed at Exhibit JH1, page 5. I was very grateful for the donation. And just in case people don't know, Fidelity Charitable is a organization that Elon Musk uses to, let's just say it, funnel his money through, and not all in above board ways. It goes on. I knew Amber and Whitney's mother, Paige Heard, through Whitney. I visited Whitney at her house on 9th of February 2019, shortly after she had given birth to her son, Hunter. Paige was there with her. During the visit, Paige shared that Elon Musk had gifted Amber a Tesla or multiple Teslas. I'm not sure if it was one or more. But Amber had told her that she had found out that they were bugged. Paige also made other private disclosures to me about Amber and Elon's relationship. Paige said that she wished Amber and Johnny would reconcile and that they had broken up because Amber was violent and emotional and loved Johnny so much that she could not control it. She said that the restraining order Amber obtained in 2016 was only due to the attorney's advice. Whitney told me that Amber and Johnny were each other's true loves, or something to that exact sentiment. I was taken aback by this conversation. Whitney was still going through the emotions of having had a baby and all of those ups and downs, and I could not believe that Amber and Johnny's relationship was being discussed while Whitney was the one who needed the focal point and needed our support. I just saw Whitney in 2019. I last saw Whitney in 2019. I was in contact with Whitney via text message in 2020. But with everything going on with the pandemic, we didn't see each other as we had previously done. In July 2020, I did not follow the trial in London between Johnny and the son. On the 24th of July 2020, I was called by someone who wishes to remain anonymous to tell me that Whitney had mentioned me while testifying in court in these proceedings in London and had said something about sleeping on my floor. I was told and have since read Whitney's testimony, during which she recalled a violent incident in March 2015 on the stairs at Johnny Depp's penthouse. She testified that Johnny supposedly hit Amber and Whitney on the stairs at Johnny's downtown penthouse. Whitney also said she had to go live with her employer. I am that employer. As stated above, she stayed in my guest room in a queen-size bed, not on the floor or a couch, and the incident on the stairs, which she had described to me in 2015, was the opposite of what she told the court. After hearing about this, I agonized over whether to come forward with what I knew. I had not come forward before this because I had not appreciated what I knew was relevant. I couldn't believe that Whitney had lied in that way. In the end, I spoke to Christy, Johnny's sister, whom I had met through the AOE chairman years ago. Christy asked me if I would give a statement. I said I would only be comfortable doing so if I had a subpoena. I expressed to her my deepest apologies for not coming forward before Whitney took the stand, and I had known what she would say under oath, that I would have done something. Later that day, I received a subpoena from Johnny's attorney, Adam Waldman. I said in my US declaration that I received 2 subpoenas from Adam, but I have since checked my records and I've realized that I have 2 copies of the same subpoena. The following day, on the 25th of July, I spoke with Adam. I told him my experiences with Whitney, Paige, and Amber Heard, including that Whitney had told me in the what I believed was the immediate aftermath of the argument on the stairs, which contradicted what Whitney had said in court. He asked me to give a declaration for the case in Virginia, which I agreed to do. We worked on it during the course of the next day. A copy of the final version that I signed is enclosed at Exhibit JH1, pages 9 through 12. After speaking to Adam on the 25th of July, I called Tash Brooks, who is Whitney's best friend and another employee of mine at the AOE. When I told her I was giving evidence in response to what Whitney had said on the stand, she fell apart. She said that Amber had convinced Whitney to lie for her. Tash told me that before traveling to London, Whitney was so worried about the trial that she was physically ill and her hair was falling out. Ugh. I felt awful for Whitney. Whitney's son was only a year old at the time, so I cannot imagine how difficult it was for Whitney. But from all the things that she had talked to me about back in 2015, I assumed that she was again doing her sister's bidding. At around 3 a.m. on the 26th of July, 2020, Whitney texted me. She asked if it was true that I was giving evidence to Johnny's legal team. Clearly, it had gotten back to her that I was preparing to explain what she had told me. I responded, telling her that she had chosen to mention me up on the stand in court and that she should know that I would always tell the truth. She wrote back saying that Adam Waldman is trying to destroy her family's lives and that I had been lied to. I did not respond, but instead wrote her a letter, informing her that I had received subpoenas, that I had spoken to Adam, and that I had given him my account. In my letter, I told Whitney that it had taken the subpoenas to get me to be forthcoming about what I had been told. I told her this at the time, as I did not want her to think I had betrayed her trust by providing my evidence without being compelled to. In fact, I had told Christie that I would provide my testimony, but only if I was subpoenaed. I then wrote an email to Whitney on the 28th of July, to which I attached my letter. I followed up with another email half an hour later after reading Whitney's statement to the press, in which she said my declaration was untrue. The press reported statements attached at Exhibits JH1, pages 13 to 17, from Whitney saying that, quote, "This is complete fiction. Jennifer Howell's statements do not bear any relationship to the truth, and I have no idea why she is saying this," end quote. So that's what Whitney told the press about what Jen Howell had been coming forward with. My correspondence with Whitney is enclosed at pages 18 to 33 of Exhibit JH1. Whitney has not responded, and I have not heard from her since. I had hoped that Tash and my other employees at AOE, who had heard that Whitney had said back in 2015 about Amber, would speak out. Tash has since told me that Amber is paying for her, Tash's attorney, and for some of my other employees and former employees' attorneys, and that they are being advised to oppose any subpoenas from Johnny's lawyers. I have spoken with one of the AOE's former employees who has told me that he was contacted by Whitney and Tash and told to avoid telephone calls from certain numbers, and if he was contacted by any attorneys, that he should say he does not recall anything and does not know why I am saying these things. They told him that I must be being paid to give a false testimony, which is entirely untrue. On the 7th of August 2020, Leslie Culp, one of the AOE's employees, received a subpoena from Amber's US attorneys for me and a second one for AOE. The subpoenas from Amber's attorneys seek copies of our entire server financials, text messages, and staff information. Copies of the subpoenas are enclosed at Exhibit JH1, pages 34 to 76. We have opposed this. I believe they are trying to suggest that I have been paid or financially incentivized to lie for Johnny. That is not true. If I were to be motivated in any way by money, Amber had a $250,000 donation made to us in her honor, and that amount is far more than any amount Johnny has ever donated to the charity. My motivation in starting the charity was to have a servant's heart and to be of service to those in need, and through art transcend any circumstance an individual is facing. But of a servant's heart is to do what is right, even when it is hard. I wish to make clear that I have only met Johnny a handful of times at our events, once or twice at the Eastern Standard Building, Columbia Building, with Amber, and once at a party for Amber. I have no loyalty to Johnny or any reason to lie for him. My loyalty is to Whitney, as I can't stand the position she's been put in, and I'm so upset for her that she felt that she had to lie in court for her sister. Coming forward as a witness in the U.S. proceedings prompted the subpoenas being issued against the Art of Elysium, which has a legal bill for the non-profit organization of over $60,000. I have no financial or other reason to lie or support Johnny. I have received no gifts or donations from Johnny or anyone associated with him, and the Art of Elysium has received no recent donations from him. Johnny did donate $25,000 to Art of Elysium in 2015, the same year that Amber was honored at the Heaven Gala. He also did a benefit concert in January 2016. This was an annual event which benefits 2 or 3 charities. Art of Elysium was one of the 2 charities chosen that year. The donations from the event came from a sponsor of the evening, ticket sales and silent auction items. No donations came from Johnny or any part of his companies or affiliates directly. Johnny also donated a lot of musical instruments as an in-kind donation while he and Amber were together. The Art of Elysium has not received any donations from Johnny since his divorce from Amber. My interest in coming forward to give evidence in these proceedings is justice and ensuring that the truth comes out. If my loyalty is to anyone, it is to Whitney, who I continue to be very fond of. I was very concerned to hear that she had lied under oath in London during the trial. While living with me, Whitney told me that she had spent her whole life cleaning up her sister's messes, and this appears to be another example. Statement of truth. I believe that the facts stated in this witness statement are true. I understand the proceedings for contempt of court may be brought against anyone who makes or causes to be made a false statement in a document verified by a statement of truth without an honest belief in its truth. Jennifer Howell, 13th of January, 2021. All right, so there it is. That is the full statement from Jen Howell. And I just wanted to mention, one more thing just again is notice how employees, those other employees of Art of Elysium who heard what Whitney had said and disclosed about Amber's behavior were contacted by Amber's attorneys. They weren't contacted by Johnny's attorneys. They were contacted by Amber's, and they were told to avoid numbers, avoid subpoenas, and not say anything. Yet Amber Heard wants to sit over there and say that, oh, no, well, don't believe Jen Howell because she must be on Johnny's payroll. And everybody in the world must be on Johnny's payroll. When, in fact, no, that's not the case. She was just trying to harass Jennifer Howell and try and intimidate her into not testifying and not providing a statement just like this one. Anyways, that is Jennifer Howell's full statement. I really appreciate Jen coming forward like this. It would have been so hard to do. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are down in that comment section below. And until next time, I'm Stevie J.